In the Russian capital, Moscow, the reaction to the strikes across Ukraine has been mixed.
It's an answer to terrorists who destroyed the bridge. It was civilian infrastructure. No mercy for terrorists.
No, it's not right. You can't bomb peaceful cities.
Our patience has limits. The Crimean bridge is Russian infrastructure, and Ukrainians also have that kind of infrastructure.
I feel very sorry that innocent people are dying. But if they are precision strikes, then it's all right. We should have done it sooner, because it's an answer to aggression.
I don't know, it's a military question. You need to ask them. We follow what's going on but don't understand what's happening.
All right, let's talk now to DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert for more. He's in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius. Konstantin, great to see you. So, clearly divided opinions there. How do you think the last few days have affected support for the war within Russia?
Well, I don't think you can speak about support or decrease in support at such short notice. One thing for sure is that when Putin announced partial mobilization, which turns out to be, I think, pretty much general, on the 21st of September, he brought this war into the Russians' living rooms. Before that, it was just war on television in the evening. Now it is going to affect more and more people over time. So the Crimean bridge, that was, of course, a very significant PR stunt for Ukraine. But, you know, as you see from the answers, and I think they're pretty much reflecting the attitude, people just do not realize that it's Russia attacking Ukraine, that the Crimea wasn't Russian, and it was an annexation 8 years ago. So I think we're dealing with a public opinion which still refuses to face reality, and it will take time. And I'm afraid, really, a lot of coffins and a lot of injured before this opinion starts to change.
Well, that actually was bringing me on to my next question, because we're seeing civilians essentially have been targeted. And do you not think that could turn the tide against Vladimir Putin in Russia?
You mean Ukrainian civilians?
Yeah, Ukrainian civilians. But do you not think that it would affect the attitude that Russians have towards Putin at home?
No, I don't think so. I think that those who were against this war are pretty much, they are either gone, they are the left Russia, or they already set in their ways. Those who support the war will continue to support it. There is this huge middle in Russia, and there's going to be a battle for this middle. And I think so far the Kremlin managed to ignite flames of hatred, flames of really huge xenophobic attitude towards Ukrainians. And this idea that Ukrainians are attacking Russians on their land, that is what the Kremlin is now trying to push down Russian throats, the millions of Russian throats. And I think to some extent they will succeed, alas. So I think that before public opinion changes, before it starts to see Ukrainian victims as really victims, there will be time. And during this time, we'll see more victims on both sides. There's no doubt that Ukraine will continue resisting, and it will continue striking Russian targets. So in a sense, we are now talking about a situation in which probably those who are really interested in the situation are even more set in their ways, at least inside Russia.
DW's Konstantin Eggert in Vilnius. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Vitaliy Kim. He's the regional governor of Mykolaiv in southeastern Ukraine. Thanks for joining us here on DW. So tell us, how badly has your region been hit by today's strikes?
Hello, everybody. For the luck, our region wasn't hit too hard. Today, we have 10 missiles attacked in the night. Everybody is okay. We have no victims. And one missile we have in region Berezhnye-Gavata. Our military forces hit 14 missiles on the territory of Mykolaiv region, so not so bad. But we're comparing it to the 7 months of war before it. So for today, it is okay because our infrastructure is not damaged, our people is not killed in our region, so it's okay.
Well, Vladimir Putin says the strikes are retaliation for the weekend bombing of the Kerch Bridge to Crimea. But in fact, actually, the Ukrainian military intelligence is saying that they were planned beforehand. What's your reaction to that?
I think that this attack is demonstration of weakness of Russian army, because they understood that they are losing their position, and losing their position not on the battlefield but in the whole world. So this is demonstration of weakness. They are cowards. They are taking civilian people and critical infrastructure before the winter. So I think it's not a revenge, but it's just demonstration of weakness.
Now, he's also threatened a harsh response to further Ukrainian attacks. How worried are you about the nuclear threat from Russia?
You know, he's losing, so he needs to say something. Well, me personally, not worry about this situation. It is bad for our infrastructure and for civilian people, because they, like our intelligence said, they was planning it before, and they had such a plan many months ago, but they realized and started to plan it directly in the beginning of the month. So we are prepared for any situation. Ukraine is united very much for now. We have the best president, and we have no right to step back. So Ukraine is pretty tough, so we are not worried.
Well, since Saturday, Russia has a new commander for its operation in Ukraine. How do you think that'll affect Russia's military tactics?
Once again, what new commander?
There was the new commander, Sergei Surovikin.
I don't think that it will affect no way it will affect our situation on the battlefield, because they changed already many commanders in different directions. I think it will change nothing, because the Russian army is very corrupt and weak, and they have no motivation. They're occupants. They're fighting on the land of a neighborhood country. So the Russians started to realize that they have no purpose, they have no goals in Ukraine. So it will change nothing, in my opinion.
Vitaliy Kim, the regional governor of Mykolaiv, thank you for joining us on DW.
You're welcome.
Right, well, let's speak now to Andriy Osadchuk in Kyiv. He's a member of the Ukrainian Parliament for the opposition Voice Party. Welcome to DW. So, what can you tell us about the targets that were hit today? Russia says it was actually targeting key energy and military command facilities.
Good evening, if it's good evening. I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with the geography of Kyiv, but I recently had a discussion with one journalist from United Kingdom, and I told him, so if to make any parallel with London, for example, so the places of attack in Kyiv today was something like Hyde Park Corner in London, meaning that it's actually the heart of the city. It's a park zone of the city. It's just next to two university buildings and to the university library, where, by the way, I was studying years ago. So it is absolutely central, peaceful, residential area of the capital of Ukraine, which has, for the moment, about, I think, 2.5, almost 3 million people inside. Regular civilians who was just on the street were killed. So regular civilian cars was burned, and it is definitely an act of terrorism based on international law. So if we respect any rules of international order, and if we respect the international law, we shall be very, very clear. It was the act of terrorism of international, and the act of international crime.
Tell us what effect these strikes are having on the Ukrainian people.
From a technological point of view, if you allow me to say so, the strike was quite extended, as your journalist already reported. So more than 80 missiles of very, very different type has been launched on Ukraine. About 50% or something a little bit more was shut down, but the rest arrived to different cities of Ukraine. And yes, I can confirm that some infrastructure objects were damaged, especially electricity. Mostly damage was the Western Ukraine, again, as you reported in Lviv. Kyiv, for the moment, I'm speaking to you from my apartment in the city center, so all the electricity, hot water, everything is operating very well. From another side, the target of Vladimir Putin was again to make us afraid. He's repeating the same logic as he did in February 24, because the original plan was to make us scary and make us run away. But we are still alive simply because we're not afraid and we fight. And I believe that these missile attacks is another signal for Ukrainian society to be even more consolidated to fight. And I hope that all our allies will understand these attacks on the same way. We shall be much more consolidated because depending on this consolidation, the duration of this war depends. So we shall finish this as fast as possible because, as you see, every day is the life of innocent people.
Now, how do you view Vladimir Putin's claim that these strikes are actually in retaliation for the attack on the Kerch Bridge to Crimea, which Russia has blamed on Ukraine? Because actually Ukraine is saying that these attacks could have been planned before that incident.
Putin is in very, very complex situation because 2 days ago, the most protected structural object in Russia was exploded. And I'm sure that with an attack of Ukraine, today's attack on Ukraine, he's saving his reputation in the eyes of his gangsters team. Because they were threatening us during weeks. But everyone understands that Crimea Bridge and Crimea is the diamond in the crown of his dictatorship. And the fact that the bridge was exploded dramatically influenced reputation of Putin inside of his country. So today he was showing to his friends, to his billionaires, that he still can act and he still can defend his interest. But I'm sure that inside of the Russia, there are huge problems in leadership. And I still think that very soon this story can be ended very unexpectedly. Because majority of Putin's so-called friends, they are not shaheeds. They want to live long and happy life with their billions of dollars. And what Putin is now doing is absolutely opposite to their plans.
Tell us briefly, if you could, now, the French President Emmanuel Macron says that these strikes signal a profound change in the war. How should the West respond?
First of all, there is no big surprise for us. Everyone who is watching this program shall remember that for 7 months at raw, Russia was shelling Ukrainian cities and villages. Some cities and villages just ceased to exist. So that's why it was not a surprise. For the West, the answer shall be very simple. Russian economy and Russia shall be switched off from global markets. Because as long as we are fighting with arms and with our people, the West shall fight with economical sanctions. Sanctions shall be tough and real. That's the way how we shall speed up the victory in this war.
Andriy Osadchuk, member of the Ukrainian Parliament, thank you for joining us on DW.